And welcome everybody to another exciting installment of the Terrorisk podcast. And I am delighted to have Brendan back on the mic. I mean, it hasn't been too long since his last appearance, but it's always a pleasure to catch up with him and to get a little sit rep on his recovery process, because I feel like some of us are a little invested at this point. But the last time we left off with Brendan, he was just freshly off the wagon, and it's been a couple of days since then, but now he's back on the wagon. So congrats to Brendan, first of all. Secondly, we'll definitely be like covering that, but like in the interim, I also want to, well, aside from like Brendan's whole recovery process, it affords him this experience to have gone through like the whole 12-step process, which we're now starting to like figure out together, or like many people have known this, but they stole a lot of it from, they say, oh, they stole it from Christianity. Not really. I don't think so. I don't think they parsed through the like Christianity and like took stuff that could be applicable to the 12-step program or whatever. I think what they really stole from was like Rosicrucianism or Gnostic tradition or something like that, which is vaguely connected to
Christianity. Here's a funny fact too, and a lot of this.
Well, let me finish my point. The point is, Brendan got to go through that. I went through my own studying of Hermeticism, and I got really super duper into that, which overlaps with a lot of Gnostic tradition, and which, a lot of like Rosicrucianism kind of like also overlaps with. And this is all obviously related and linked to Masonic shit, because the Masons practice alchemy. Clearly, like that's their whole shtick. That's their whole secret. Their whole occult practice is this is all just talking about different ways to manipulate reality. For example, if you're poor, you want to create a new reality where you're not poor. If you're heavily addicted to alcohol, you want to create a new reality where you're not addicted to alcohol. Whatever may stand in your way, your business is actualizing that reality, no matter the cost. Honestly, for some people, they really feel that way. And, for some people, like, not drinking, getting over their alcohol abuse, like that's worth whatever, virtually whatever cost to them, if it means they can live a normal life. Or some people just are so caught up in poverty that they never want to, they just can't stand to live in that. So they fucking, they want to create a new reality. And if that means getting in touch with like spiritual forces or divine powers, I mean, so be it, right? So what I really want, what I was meant to say is, I want to cross-reference some notes with Brendan, because it's not that we have the same goal in mind with this sort of stuff, with these sort of practices like the 12-step system, or with like spiritual ascension and I guess enlightenment, like stuff like that, spiritual enlightenment. We get to cross-reference some notes, because I mean, honestly though, like, traditionally the way it was supposed to be was, let's say, back then in a magical world, right? Because we could call it a magical world. That's, everyone believed in it. So yeah, it was a magical world. You would have an initiate or an adept or a journeyman, they would call him. He goes from like lodge to lodge, traveling the world, learning the different sciences, different traditions, different practices. He would go travel to the Vedic magicians or adepts and learn from them and their ways and their sciences and their technology. And then he would go travel to maybe, I don't know, the Egyptians or something, and learn their practices and traditions. So yeah, I think this is pretty on par for like developing this kind of sensibility. So anyway, what were you saying?
Oh, funny thing is, like there's a lot of YouTube videos nowadays of Christians that are very against AA and other 12-step programs.
Well, that's a given. I mean, they've been doing that since,
because they let you choose a higher power or whatever. They say that's wrong. It has to be Jesus, and even though they're misinterpreting their own fucking Bible, it's not like they completely fucked up.
I don't think it's about being able to choose your own higher power. I think it's predicated on the knowledge that it doesn't matter what you call it. The thing is, it's there. It's the thing. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that everyone else is thinking. They're like, that's.
But they also like, they like the guy Bill Wilson, the founder. The other, this is another co-founder, but he was he was a really seeker. So like, as much as there's a lot of biblical references and wording, they found like Ouija boards in his house, and this is back in like the 30s, you know, and like he did something. I forgot, what is it called when like you just kind of silence your mind, meditate, and then just start writing? It's almost like something's writing through you.
Channeling.
He did something like that when he wrote a lot of the book parts. So a lot of that stuff.
Do you believe in channeling?
In a sense, I believe in. I don't know if I believe in every person who says they're channeling, but I believe in channeling. But like, you know, it's hard. With capitalism, it's hard because I used to really get into this guy called Bashar.
Bashar, yeah. I know
Now
Bashar.
that I'm rewatching it and I'm not a teenager that's, you know, taking acid every week, I'm looking at it now and I'm just like, this is a cash grab, isn't it? And the way he's like, it's too theatric. He goes, hello, and like it's a very like and like it's so like it's the way he does it, and I'm just like, this is bullshit.
All right, wait. I just want to say shout out to Bashar. You fucking top tier grifter, you.
You're doing a great job, though. You know, whatever floats people's boats. It's pretty much you're providing an entertainment for people at that, and they're going there and they're thinking this. You know, like for me, it was entertaining for me to watch these videos. I'm like, this is so cool. He's an alien coming and telling us there's different realms, and you can manifest your reality by thinking this, and that, doing this, and that, and speaking things into existence and stuff, and that's all nice and dandy.
Well, let's break this down. All right, first of all, you know what? As a channeler, no real legit channeler, if they do exist, I don't think any legit channeler would ever say like anything other than anybody could do this, because that's the whole point. If you're a human being with a soul, you have the capacity to channel because your soul is connected to the divine, and you can channel anything that's connected to the divine.
Yeah, I would think that it would be also the other being that you're channeling's own will to choose you to channel through. So I don't think you can be like, I'm going to pull this motherfucker from the ethers.
No, but that's the idea. It's not pulling them from their home. It's literally, we all share already the same spiritual home. If you have a soul, you connect to the divine. What is the divine? You know, the divine is God. So every living being's soul, whether they're alien or human or interdimensional, whatever they are, if they are of the divine, of the one, which if we understand God to be what God is, then yes, they are of the one, then they're going to be connected to the same source. And yes, you could channel them. I mean, think about it this way, like,
yeah, but who's like, say they feel like going, you know, talking through you.
Let me try this. Like,
I feel like they would have a choice in the matter.
No, because it doesn't look. It doesn't have to be them as they are, like in the planet, whatever coming. It could just be like who they are being channeled through you, and they may not even know they're being channeled, but they could be being channeled.
Seems intrusive.
It's not. Look, let me put it this way. Do you believe in like parallel realities?
Yeah.
Okay, so you do. So you believe like with every conscious decision you make, you're splitting, you're creating parallel realities where there's a different Brendan that made a different decision, right?
It's possible, yes.
Okay, so the idea is all those, like, even if you made this one decision.
So I think it's funny when people say, "Oh, I'm living my best life." I'm like, "How are you sure about that?"
No, listen.
Sure, there isn't a life where you just.
You're missing the point. You split off into a different lifetime, right? Whatever. But just because you make one decision doesn't mean the Brendan that makes the other decision stopped existing. That Brendan still exists. He's just as real as this Brendan sitting before me now. There's a Brendan that went to college and got a PhD and figured out how to beat cancer. That Brendan also exists. Now, the whole idea, what makes channeling so profound is the possibility of psychically connecting with those alternate Brendans. Now, you might just throw your hands up and say, "Oh, that's fucking impossible." But why? Why would that be impossible? If there's anyone in this universe or in any other universe that you could possibly connect with easiest first, it would be an alternate version of yourself, a different quantum state of Brendan. That makes sense. That, if anything, that makes more sense to me. Like, making contact with a parallel Christopher in a different universe who made a different decision makes more sense to me than telepathically connecting with you right now. I think it would be easier for me to telepathically connect with an alternate version of me. And if I could think of it, if I could imagine it, he exists. Because, like, the parallel reality split off on a way larger scale and a way faster rate than my consciousness could ever conjure them. So you would say there's billions, trillions, like quadrillions, a number I can't even think of, different versions of me. And if I just imagine one, just from the top of my head, on a pure figment of my imagination, that still falls within the possibility of all the different me's. So you could imagine yourself as anything, and chances are that Brendan does exist out there somewhere. I mean, it may be very, very divorced and separate from your own. So it may take like many degrees of like dimension hopping. Like, for example, I'm gonna have a way easier time channeling Christopher, who decided to have tea this morning instead of coffee, than I am going to have, that it's going to be a lot easier to channel that version of me than channeling, say, like a version of me who stayed in high school, because that's so far back, and it's so many degrees of separation from my current reality. But it's possible. It can be done. What it means is to tap into that alternate you. It's going to take more time. There's going to be a further lag. So let's say you're like a homeless person, and you're trying to tap into and channel the version of, and eventually fall into the timeline where you're a millionaire. You can do that, but it's going to take a lot longer than channeling the version of you who say would just rather get crack that night, and you become that version of you instead. So I do believe in this, and I do think it's like connected with manifesting. I do think it's connected with timeline jumping, and I think it's connected with channeling. I think it's all connected. Honest, and I think it's like very spiritual or energetic or however.
Well, how do you know that you don't just wake up every morning? Like, is this you never like I've had dreams to where I had memories, fabricated memories inside of the dreams where I had a totally different history and timeline. So who's to say that every day you wake up, you're not already in a totally different version of yourself and timeline?
When you put it like that, it's most likely that when you wake up, your consciousness is literally jumping timelines to timelines. You know what? The idea is you literally, that's what we do. You know what? Put it this way. Hopping timelines doesn't stop. It's not like that was the simplest way I could put it, like to make it make sense. Like where I say like, oh, every decision you consciously make, that's gonna create and that's already a big deal, right? I think it's even deeper than that. I think your emotional state at any given time and your thought patterns could even like be actively creating different timelines. Because remember, before every decision or action you take, it starts as a thought, it starts as an emotion. So really, to control your actual actions and to the real nature, the core of controlling which version of Brendan you become, it's really contingent on you controlling your thoughts and emotions. That's how you truly jump timelines. The secret is not about controlling your decisions. The secret is learning to master your thought patterns and your emotions. And it's not about controlling them or stopping them or speeding them up. It's really just about, I guess, first of all, like not trying to force anything. Second of all, like understanding. It's about being conscious and aware. That's the only thing that frees it. Awareness, like not judgment, Like become the observer, not the judge.
It's funny. It makes me think of a Doctor Who episode where he takes somebody, back in time, and they're like, "Well, what?" I'm like, "What should I be careful? Like, what if I do something, or what if I like step on a butterfly, or do one little thing that changes the whole course of history?" And he's like, "How is it different than any other day that you live?" And I'm like, that's a good line. That's pretty good right there. You go back in the past and you're like, wait, but what if I make one wrong move and it changes history? That's every moment of your life.
Yeah. So, but that's how
you just haven't seen the outcome yet.
So that's how you become a quantum being. And I've been trying to like kind of like teach my friends this shit, like, which is like how to become a quantum being that's capable of not just like, you're not just living a life where you're confined to your like reality that you could see with your five senses. Suddenly you're understanding your existence on a quantum level, on more of like a non-linear level. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not just this Brendan that was born from the womb and is going to end up in this grave. It's like in the midst of that, billions and trillions and quadrillions of different parallel Brendans are also existing too. That's immensely powerful, but most people are locked out of tapping into that because they either don't have the capacity to like understand that framework of reality, or maybe they're afraid to, whatever the reason. Like, if you can like wrap your head around that, wrap your heart around that, like have faith in that and like live with that, it could really drastically improve your life, like. So the way I teach it, instead of like starting with all the quantum business of like infinite versions of self, I try to keep it simple. I say like, I ask them a question like, do you believe in making contact with your past and future selves? Like making contact with past Brendan and being able to speak with past Brendan, or making contact with future Brendan psychically and being able to speak with future Brendan psychically. You can. I mean, because of what we just said about like being able to tap into different timelines and alternate versions of self and become that alternate version of self, whether it takes a minute or many, a lot of time, you can telepathically make contact with future Brendan, who can in the future will decide, oh yeah, I got to check in with past Brendan because then I got to complete the, or whatever, just, you could pay it forward. But the more you do it, the more consistently you keep in touch with future Brendan and past Brendan, the stronger that bond becomes. Then you become a non-linear like being, a being outside of time. I mean, yes, you may be consciously always in the present, but like you're not deluding yourself into thinking you're in the future. You're actually in contact with that Brendan in the future, and you're not like constantly stuck in the past, like feeling depressed about the past. You're in touch with past Brendan, and you've forgiven him for his mistakes. You know, you're all on the same team. And then once you do that, then you could get into tapping into the crazier version, which is like tapping into alternate versions of Chris, not just future versions.
Sorry, my insulin thing is wigging out right now. That ramen just spiked my blood sugar like crazy. Probably the soda didn't help.
Well, yeah. So that I think that's it's really about like, again, it's really about being just mastering mind, body, and soul. Like when your mind, body, and soul are aligned. Now, I'm not talking about like making them strong or whatever, or it's or doing the right thing. It's not even really about morality. It's alignment. It's so your mind, your body, and soul are not at war with each other. Like you're not treating your body like shit, which attacks your mind, which attacks your soul, and your mind doesn't have shitty beliefs like, oh, there is no God and I believe in nothing, nothing matters. Like that's how your mind attacks your body and soul. And your soul, you just have to believe in your soul. You just believe in a soul, and the soul will take care of everything else. And that's how you like get into self-alignment. People have to align themselves in mind, body, and soul to unlock these kinds of powers, and to have the capacity to like take advantage of these kinds of like mystical factors of reality.
See, that's what gets me. It's like, well, then what's the point of going into this physical reality if the whole point is to become conscious of what you are beyond the physical body?
Because, dude, then you're in a playground. Then you get to have the time of your.
It's like having a lucid dream.
Yeah, that's worth it. That's worth like making the experience way better than being a fucking slave.
I always used to have these lucid dreams when I was very young, and I didn't know what lucid dream was. I was a little kid, but I would have dreams where I'd be around my parents, a regular day, and then all of a sudden I'd realize this is a dream while I was in the dream, and I'd go around trying to convince everyone else that you're not real. I'm just dreaming. And they'd be like, okay, Brendan, go brush your teeth, And I'd be like, Mom, Dad, you're not real. This is just a dream. They'd be like, Brendan, the fuck are you talking about, Well, they wouldn't say fuck, but and I always have these dreams. It was so weird because I've had lucid dreams to where I realize I'm dreaming,
Brendan,
but
let me ask you something.
I can't control the dreams.
Let me ask you something. Can you imagine, say... have you ever in your head conjured people, imaginary people in your head, and made them have conversations with each other?
Completely fabricated people?
Yeah, in your head. Not maybe a version of people you knew in your own life, and you just conjure them in your head and you make them have conversations with each other.
When I was younger, I used to imagine fabricate a girl that would be ideal for me and have.
All right, I'm saying you ever do that with more than one person at a time?
Not that I recall.
Can you do it? Can you do more than one person at a time?
Yeah.
And can you make them have a conversation with each other?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe that's what God is doing with us. Maybe that's what we are to God. Maybe we are the people that God conjures in his imagination having conversations with each other. Because if I could do it, I'm pretty sure God could do it, probably to a much greater degree. So maybe that's what we are.
Yeah, but then they also have the concept of free will,
What do you mean?
Well, free will, God, the whole idea is that God gave us free will, so we have the ability.
Well, we do have free will because God has free will. God's will is our will.
Well, that's like you trying to come up with two people in your head having a conversation, but you can't control the conversation because they have free will, and unless they submit their will to yours, the people in your head are going to completely go off on tangents.
But first of all, what is free will?
The ability to choose how you want to be, do what you want to do, say what you want to say without something puppeteering you.
It's the belief that you're in control.
Yeah, which is kind of, I guess there's not much free will. There's very little.
Okay, so let's have this conversation. I've had this conversation before with other friends, but I think free will, I don't know if it's quote unquote true or not. I think free will is one of those weird things that's both real and not real. However, I will say this.
Because I didn't, give birth to myself. So that wasn't an act of free will. At least to my egoic self, that was not an act of free will. I was just thrown in here.
I think if you're poor, I think if your life is really shitty, I think if your life is going really bad, you have to believe in free will. You have to believe in free will. It's essential. It's vital. However, if you're doing really good in life, if you're a billionaire and like you have like people working under you, and you never got to work a day in your life, you gotta let go of free will. You gotta let go of the idea of free will. It's vital that
but I feel like accomplishing more would make you feel more like you're in control and have more free will than somebody who doesn't.
You don't understand. That's why it's so much more pivotal to let it go. That's why you have to stop believing in free will.
Yeah, but it's harder if you feel.
But
like
that's why it's more important. Just like it's harder to believe in free will if your life is shit and poor. Yeah, I get it. I know. I'm not saying it's fucking easy, Brendan. I'm saying it's vital. Like, it's important. Yeah, it's fucking difficult, but I don't fucking care. You know, like, it's still important.
You know, like people who are really down and out, they go like, okay, I failed, so
God hates me. Yes,
life God,
hates
what
me.
is your will for me? You know, sometimes they'll go to that route.
No. That's not going to work. That's not going to work because that's not how God's will works. God doesn't reward you for being asked, what do I do? God rewards you when you decide for yourself what to do. Even if you decide for the wrong, like whatever, just the fact that you make a decision, you somehow weirdly always get rewarded for it. I mean, don't get me wrong. People sometimes really make really bad decisions. Like they fly off the handle and they say, I'm going to go on.
Consequences.
Yeah, but I think like.
It's not a reward. That's a consequence. Like almost like a
I think like there's a difference between like making your decision out of like faith and then making your decision out of fear. There's a difference. You know, if you could make decisions, like bad decisions that you didn't have to make, but you make them anyway because you're afraid of dying or you're afraid of being poor. Ultimately, you're like, it's just mostly fear of death. Like you break down any fear a person has. Like if it's like a serious enough fear, you get to the core of it. Ultimately, people are just afraid of dying. You know, like if you question like every like major fear, break it down. It's because they fear dying. People fear, you know, not knowing something because that something might kill them. Now, I think like. When you don't make decisions out of fear, though, and you make them out of faith, yeah, you might get it wrong, but you never made it because the only decisions that like, I mean, are you really gonna like make a decision that'll hurt another out of faith? Like, oh, I have faith, this is the right thing to do. Like, I listen to my heart, and my heart says I have to really like hurt this person, you know? No, it's like people hurt people because they're like, I'm afraid.
Well,
I'm afraid of not pleasing God unless I kill these infidels. If that's done,
that's what I was about to get to.
That's fear. Yeah, that's a fear like reaction. Whereas if it's faith based, it's like I have faith that God put these different people, you know, in front of us for a reason. You know, I have faith that God wants us to like have a dialogue with them. You know, because if you're not afraid, then why would you have to kill them if you're not afraid of them? So you're like. Let's see what they have to tell us.
I don't think it's out of fear. It's more out of they think God wants them to kill the infidels,
and therefore,
and then they'll get rewarded in heaven.
But they did but they don't. All right, so then no, it's not that. It's like then they'll get rewarded in heaven. But if they don't do it, then they won't get rewarded in heaven, and they won't. And they, you know, like, and they won't do what God wants them to do, and therefore they're scared. That's a decision made from fear.
You know what's funny? Their idea of how many versions is it that they get when they go to heaven? I forgot the number.
I don't know.
But it's like, okay, say it's like 72, right? It's funny because like for a dude, that seems like oh wow, I'm gonna go up and there's gonna be 72 virgins I get to fuck. Imagine being a female. It's like, yeah, you're gonna go to heaven.
Wait, no,
there's gonna be 72 virgins.
No, I know, but I just really
trying to fuck you.
I really want to see if you can like really agree or disagree with this. Like, hold a firm stance. Do you believe like all of our most immoral actions are ultimately made out of fear, like a fear of not having enough power, fear of dying, fear of losing money, fear of losing relevance in society, fear of losing someone, right? Yeah. So, I mean, look at Star Wars, right? You know, it's like,
I was thinking Anakin.
Yeah, like fucking, it's fear. Fear. I mean, I'm not gonna say fear is the root of evil, but I will say like fear is like primary, core factor that's involved in like evil decision making. Honestly. Like fear.
It's funny because like Yoda's advice to Anakin when he was like, you know, fear of losing something. He's like somebody. He's like, what must I do? And he's like, you must learn to let go of everything you fear to lose, which is pretty solid advice.
Yeah, but it's difficult.
But that's fucking like really. You got nothing else for me? It's like, no, just give that shit up. Then he's just like, I'm gonna go kill everyone.
Honestly, you know who are some of, in my opinion, some are the most spiritually lowest people. I mean, they're great people a lot of the times, if not most of the time. But the most spiritually like unascended people to me are like parents. Most parents in the world, because they live in a constant state of fear. If you really think about it, like, I mean, I don't think they're evil people just because you're not spiritually ascended. If anything, being spiritually ascended doesn't necessarily mean you do any good for the world. All it means is you don't really do harm, and it's not necessarily good. I'm just saying there's a difference between being good and being like ascended or whatever.
Well, according to the Bhagavad Gita, there are 3 modes.
I know what you're gonna say. I know it. Oh, okay. This is what were you gonna say?
There's 3 modes of existence, of consciousness in this world, in this material world. The lowest one being the mode of ignorance, and then that would be like, evildoers, people, shit like that. And then there's the mode, and that would be very fear-based. Then they say there's the mode of passion, which would be, yes, people with kids. They have certain things they're passionate about. They're not bad.
Yeah, but they'll always have something that could be taken like from them, and they'll always be afraid of losing it.
And then the mode of goodness, which is a devotee life of
Jedi.
Turning,
it's the path.
It's
the Jedi,
turning your will to Krishna or to Vishnu or to whatever, the impersonal Brahman, and that's completely not living by your own.
Dude, I could
resting on your laurels.
I could see the spiritual manifestation like online a lot. Like when I see the people who are always posting about like in this constant state of like freaking out over what the gays are doing, or freaking out over what the conservatives are doing, or just always freaking out about what AI is doing, what the Jews are doing. They're all parents. It's the parents, because they're fucking constantly, they're terrified. These are terrified people. That's why I don't think it's possible for them to spiritually awaken at this point. Because like it's
well, that's why Buddha left his fucking family.
It's an impossible task.
He's like, I'm sorry guys, I can't be giving a fuck about you if I'm trying to learn how to free my mind from material existence.
Exactly. So you get it.
He had to absolve himself of responsibility, which is kind of fucked up to most people to be like, he just left his wife and kids in the middle of the night and didn't return for like fucking 7 or 15 or so years, and then came back. And when he came back and talked to his wife is like, "You're not my husband anymore, are you?" He's like, "No, I'm sorry. I'm something else." And he's like, "I'm sorry. I'm still not going to be daddy." But see you guys later. I solved the problem of life.
No. So that's exactly what I'm saying. Now, like that's a tall order. You cannot ask your average American parent to fucking do that. I mean, I happen to be, call me lucky, I guess.
You'd have to renounce everything.
Yeah, exactly. You can't do that. Like I don't think an average parent will be able to live with themselves to be able to do that. I mean, maybe once their kids are older, and
you could be a Christian and say, I believe in Jesus and stuff, and I believe in that, and I believe in the tenets of the commandments and the Bible. But to really delve deep into that religion would to actually do what Jesus says in the book, which is renounce the world, give up all your possessions, and follow me and do as I do. Completely sacrifice yourself to God. And like most Christians are not going to do that. I think the most deepest is somebody becoming joining the priesthood and becoming a minister like absolving themselves from sex.
Brendan, and here's the biggest problem, right, with this whole thing about being like having a family and all this shit and renunciation. It's not really the renunciation. I think that's just purely the Christian thing. The Christians like to do the whole renouncing and then
that's also Hindus, Buddhists.
No. Asceticism.
Taoist.
You're talking about asceticism at that point. That's different than renunciation. Okay, asceticism is
Hinduism. They call it renunciation.
All right, so the point, I'm speaking firstly strictly in a sense of relationships. Yes, you can have relationships with objects, but the most powerful relationships are between other people. Now, when you spiritually get it, right? Let's just say like once you understand the thing that like all the different fingers are pointing at, once you understand that, it's the knowledge that you have a soul, Brendan has a soul, Chris has a soul.
Or you are a soul.
We are a soul, whatever. We are all souls, and we have souls or whatever. When you really contemplate the nature of a soul and to the point where you actually get it and understand it, you're going to come to the conclusion where all of our souls are the same thing. Like if they come from the one, if they come from the divine source, all of our souls are just ultimately the same soul. We're just different versions of each other. We're different fractalizations of the same soul. So once you understand that, and then like before I understood that, I would look at Brendan as like he's just a completely different person. That's all he is. And then once I understand that, I look at Brendan as like, oh my God, that's like another version of me. That's like my same soul, just in a different body, in a different lifetime, living on a different life. But ultimately, we're here temporarily, and once we die, we become the same person. We become the same soul again. And if you look at everybody in the world like that, that's a very, 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 very different reality that you're living in. No, wait, let me finish. I'm just saying this is why it's very difficult. Like say suddenly, like, what, you're gonna look at your kids and you're gonna be like, you're no longer like my kids and different, like my offspring. You're just another version of me that I just made that I didn't really have to. And then you look at your wife and, like, you know, at first she was this like mysterious and seductive and like feminine wonder to you in your life, and now you're just like, you're just another version of me. You're just another me born in a different body, living in a different lifetime. It's like, it's gonna change everything. It's going to change who you are fundamentally, what you are. It's going to change your understanding. It's going to change what you're capable of. It's going to change your ability to control your thoughts, feelings, and actions, because there's going to be, you're not going to take shit as personally. Like, if you truly understand this belief and you truly internalize it, someone's going to fuck with you and you're going to be like, you just don't get it, you know, like, because they don't. If they did get it, you know that they wouldn't do that, because it's truly, that's what it's about. And it's like, you don't have, and once you get it, it gets even better, because you're like, I don't even have to force this on anyone. I'm just gonna live my life like this, and then people will see it, and it's like, why are you just glowing, man? Like, what's your secret? And then you tell them, I'm aligned in mind, body, and soul, and it's like, what's that mean? You know, what the fuck? What's a soul? And then that's when you that's when you spread the awakening. So this is I think how this stuff is supposed to unfold in our current like paradigm. You know, like how we're supposed to like break the matrix like that. You know?
Yeah, I remember my like early shroom trips when I was younger, and like, remember one of the first thing I noticed is like when I talk to other people, at first they'd be like, I'd be sitting there and going through this like catharsis, like this crazy thing, and then I'd finally like break free and I'd be like giggling and laughing at things and like kind of in awe and wonder and blissing out, and like they would be looking at me like at first like, are you so messed up? Look at him. And I'd be looking at them like they have no clue that they're just in a body right now, like they're like still in this, like think they're here. But I also, when I looked into their eyes and I like saw people, it was like I didn't see their individual egos like looking at me and stuff. It was like I saw behind it through like their eyes, and it's like the other part in them, it was like kind of like waving at me like, hi, I'm not awakened yet, but I see you. Like in that part, the awakened part is there. Yeah. It's inside of them. That's not, you know, it's just the ego hasn't let that part of them shine through. They haven't let the soul shine through yet. So they're still, but they're behind it. That being that's all knowing is still behind that. And it's like kind of like now I'm communicating with that. So even though their egoic self is talking to me and saying, wow, you're really messed up on shrooms right now, aren't you? Yeah. Behind that, there's another being that I see that's just like, hey, buddy, what's up? Yeah, he's not ready to awaken yet. This is my guy. This is Matt. This is the one. But, he doesn't know I'm here yet, you know. Like he doesn't know that. I don't. But at that moment, I am not Brendan. I am the other consciousness.
Yeah, but I'm saying even when you look at
meat puppet,
even when you look at the other meat puppets with their own soul, I'm saying that their own soul is not different than your soul. It's the same soul.
Yeah, it's like you're saying hello to yourself from someone. Yeah, that's what it looks like, and it's like, hey, what's up, buddy? Hey, what's up, other Bren? You know.
That's exactly what it is. It's like a vibration. It's like a contained vibration that could pretty much. Like it vibrates at a specific frequency, a very unique frequency, their soul frequency, and that's contained, creates like, or vaguely contained, like consolidated in the vague shape of a living thing. That's your soul. And like once you kind of like understand that, again, like life isn't the same. And I didn't need drugs to reach that state. It kind of just happened. You know, it's kind of just happened through like a contemplative state. And you know what was like a big factor? The reason why I think it was different, because I probably like tried, or my subconscious tried to break through multiple times. I think what really changed was the state of my body, because like I was super into martial arts at that time, and like I had a goal, like trying to win that tournament. So I like trained super duper hard, and like once that cycle of like trying to break through came from my subconscious, my body was finally able to meet that and contain it. And like it was just finally like the Triforce, you know, mind, body, and soul were aligned. And I was able to like finally just integrate my shit. Because, you know, once your body is like capable of housing that, then you could finally face your shadow. And just when you think you're slaying a demon, you're like, oh, you're just like me, but you didn't know anything, you know. And then that's how you reconcile with your shadow, is like, all right, let's do it together from now on. You know, let's not, you know, let's actually work together from here on out, and let's not do this alone.
Yeah, I'm still confused about, like, I haven't gotten a perfect explanation of the idea of Carl Jung's process of individuation. Because you're supposed to face your shadow, right? Okay, and acknowledge that that's a part of you, and not try to fight that is. You are these things also. But how do you integrate that? You know, and that is a lot of part of the 12 steps too. It's a lot of integration. You go through your shadow pretty much. I
think what really helps is this is how I I kind of fell into it. I don't think it's necessarily related, but you know the chakra point system.
Yeah,
I think it's like 9 chakra points. Is that what it is, or 7, 8, 9?
I'm not sure. I forget. Because some places only acknowledge certain chakras, and then some places add ones.
All right, what's
it.
the Asian one?
I don't know.
There's your root chakra, then all your other chakras,
There's
like your
the
throat
root,
chakra.
and there's the pelvis, then there's the navel right there. Then I think there's something fucking in the middle, and there's one in the chest right there, like the solar plexus, where your heart would be.
Okay.
And then there's the throat chakra, and then there's the third eye, then the crown chakra, but there also might be something above crown chakra.
Okay, so that's the next is the connection to the divine, and I think there was an episode of Avatar, The Last Airbender I saw, and in the episode, Aang had to unlock all his chakra points so he could like control the Avatar state, and he was meditating, and he was like, "All right, now we're going to unlock every chakra," and each chakra is typically closed off by some emotion. Like the root chakra is closed off by fear. What are you most afraid of? Like think about it. I don't know if this is right. Like I gotta like either watch this again or like see what emotion is in line with each one. But yeah, like he had to basically meditate on it and consider like the things that in his life that were like most blocking that, like
once when I was still...
wait and then I decided to do it along with him. So then and then they basically went through like, all right, and I thought this was like easy kid shit, so I was like, yeah, this sounds fun. But then it's like right off the bat, it's like, what are you most afraid of? What are you most guilty of? What are you most like embarrassed of, ashamed of? And then like by the time I got to the top, I was like crying. I was like, holy shit. And then like, just basically like unlocking those points and just letting each thing go that I like considered in my head my whole life and all that shit. And it was because of fucking Avatar. So I did that. And I think that primed me. I think that kind of like lit the fuse. It didn't do anything immediately, but then like within like a span of I think like months or to a year, like it really just blew up and like just flooded open because of like certain events, or maybe it was a solar event. I don't fucking know what it is. I don't know how these things really work, but it was something of that nature. And I think it was like, it's all about alignment. So it's like a big thing is like going through that. For me, I think confronting your shadow, a good avenue to that is doing it through the chakra points. Because what did I just say? Like you have to open these points, you have to like consider, what are you most afraid of? What are you most ashamed of? What are you most guilty of? Like what are you most embarrassed of? Like stuff like that. Like these are your great emotional hangups, which makes sense in like not even like in a spiritual sense, but in a purely like psychological sense. Like yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Like like because like certain energy points are, say the most root one is like connected to your sexuality, and if you're constantly scared in fear mode and you still have that emotional hang up of fear in your body and you don't unlock that, you're not going to be able to get horny, you're not going to be able to be sexual, you're going to be in constant like fear mode. That's not horny, that's not hot. Like so but each one like is like that. Like for example the throat chakra, like if you don't get over the hang up, whatever emotional hang up that's attuned to your throat chakra, you're not going to be able to utilize the power of that chakra, because each chakra comes with their power, comes with their ability, especially the third eye. So and none of these like sequential points are going to give you anything if the first one is blocked, which is why it's the most basic one, like fear. So yeah, that worked for me. So I don't know, like if you ever have the time, watch that episode of Avatar and like meditate with it and do it and fucking...
I'm going to try to do more like, I might even go to a meditation class or something like that. But this is making me think of something. So there was while I was still going through active like heroin addiction and, trying to get off it, but I couldn't, right?
Yeah.
That way back when, like 10 years ago or something, right?
Yeah.
And I was in the city and I found out about a place that does like pictures of your aura. And then they check your chakras. And it was like this Asian kind of place, and you go in there and they take a picture with this certain camera, and then it shows you like there's colors around you.
That's cool,
right? And mine's blue mostly at the time, and it was all blue around me, but also it had this hue on the inside around it that was red.
Okay.
And they were like, that's a little weird. And I'm like, and I knew what was going on. Yeah, I'm fucking addicted to heroin. That's the red right there. And that's the part that's obstructing the blue, that. And then they said, okay, you have these chakras, but they're spinning. Your chakras are always spinning.
Yeah.
And they're like, these ones are spinning backwards though. And I'm like, what does that mean? It's like they're trying to heal. And I'm like, oh, they're gonna keep trying spinning backwards while I'm on this fucking heroin because like it's probably constantly my body, my spirit body is constantly trying to fight off this like that I'm constantly like
Poison.
struggling with the fucking heroin addiction thing, you know. And my chakras were all fucked up. Once my mom used to do Reiki energy healing and offhands chakra healing, where you go and all, you know, and do all the different things you do in a little meditation, breathing before when you do it. And she got good at it, and she got a diploma for it and everything. She was certified to be a Reiki healer. Some people pay hundreds of dollars for a short session. So I was doing bad and depressed, and everything was wrong. And I was addicted to heroin, and I didn't want to, you know, I didn't tell her that, but I'm like, can you do one on me? And I was trying anything to get off of this shit. I tried to join the Hare Krishnas, and they're like, just keep chanting Hare Krishna. I'm like, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Oh my God, the withdrawals hurt, you know? So like, she does the Reiki healing on me, and I get this fucking, it feels like somebody is like stabbing a fucking knife through my skull. And it lasted like 3 days, and I'm like pounding my head into the cat. It was like the worst pain ever.
Yo, dude.
And then my mom was like, oh, it's a healing crisis. And I akined it to like, you know, when you have a bunch of gook, right? In your weed pipe.
Yeah.
And you're trying to clean it out. But in the process of trying to clean it out, now instead of having a little bit of airflow through it, you just bunched it all into one fucking place, and now there's no airflow. That's what the healing crisis kind of. Yeah,
you can't.
You know,
you can't
all the energy tried
that.
to escape, and it just went clunk and clunked up in that area, and just couldn't get out, and it was causing me physical pain. That also makes me think about like my diabetes and different problems, like the ED, which is from the diabetes and stuff like that, or like problems with like urination issues.
Yeah, but
like, is that a problem? Is that also a chakra problem?
Yeah,
you know, what's happening there? And it's weird because my mom had this psychic she would go to every once in a while. I didn't believe in that shit, but she didn't know about how I was getting into like Carl Jung and like Ram Dass and things like that. Like I was trying to get into all these spiritual things because I was having like I did my psychedelic things. I'm like, what is the, you know, purpose of this? You know, and she said, yeah, the psychic said something about how like your older son, you know, you don't realize how like spiritually he really is and something like that. But then they said something about the psychic didn't know anything about me, and she said, your son. So like I remember mom saying, yeah, your son he has this problem where he has a problem with the urination because he something happened to his like manhood. Like something ruined his manhood, and it made me think about like, you know, my first breakup, and you know, knowing she's with another guy and something, especially somebody I knew and stuff like that. I'm like, did that emotional thing cause this? Like, did that like cause something within me to make my chakras go, oh fuck, this organ's gonna fuck up now? Because, you know, like, and they do say like emotional trauma and damage actually manifests itself physically and shit like that. Well, you know,
do you remember anyone before
that?
Again,
I was born with Tourette's and OCD and things like that. Like nothing. But then there's past life. People do past life regression, and all of a sudden, like somebody will have a horrible problem they can't get over, and then they'll go through a past life and realize it's something from like 5 lifetimes before.
I wouldn't look at it like that. I think the effects are much more visceral. Generational curses usually manifest with parents before they manifest for kids. Did your mom ever like fuck with you when you were a little kid in like a negative way?
She played jokes on me.
Like, were they bad jokes?
No, she still fucks with me. Like I'll be like trying to relax in my room, and all of a sudden it'll be late, and she'll like do something scary, and she'll wait by my door and like hear me about to open my door, and I'll open it, and she'll go, "Bleh!" You know, and I'll be like, what the fuck, mom? Holy shit! But I'm afraid to do that to her because like when I do things like that to her, it's like she's gonna actually have a
I'm saying when you were like a kid, like a little kid.
Yeah. But this was after I had like other issues.
I know. I'm just saying, were there some stuff that was like ever like bad?
I have problems with thinking. Like I've always had a problem with almost like a mental issue, thinking like inanimate objects had feelings, and I was always afraid of hurting them.
They do.
And like
they do have
like,
feelings,
especially like stuffed
animals. They are alive. I think everything's
that
alive.
Looked like they were. So gummy bears. I had a problem with gummy bears. If I saw somebody eat a gummy bear and like bite it in half, I'd be like, no, you gotta bite its head off first and put it out of its misery, then eat it.
Okay.
And then so like there were times where they like, you know, I was held down and they just like ate off the leg and then bit off the arms. Like, help me, Brandon, help me.
Your mom did this?
Yeah, relatives did this to me. Yeah.
Your mom did this, really? When you were a kid?
Yeah.
Did it freak you out?
Yeah, it was like almost like, if somebody
Brendan,
was like
that
trying
sounds
to,
like- that sounds
somebody's
like-
like torturing somebody in front of you and holding you down, like you gotta watch this shit.
Brendan,
while they like
that
set
sounds
somebody
like-
on fire.
that
Like
sounds-
it was like kind of like that to me.
That's like some emotional trauma, dude.
Because I really, somewhere deep down, I thought this poor thing, this poor fucking gummy bear, was suffering and being tortured in front of me, and there's nothing I could do about it. But I have a problem. Torture bothers me a lot. Like when I was a young kid, I remember it was like a lobster boil going on at a lagoon in New Jersey at an aunt's house. So I started hearing like the sound, and I'm like, what's that sound I keep hearing? And
Dude,
they're like, those
so-
are the lobsters. I'm like,
Yo, let me ask
they're
you.
screaming, and I threw the pot back in the water, and I was freaked out about it. I'm like, how is everyone fucking okay with this?
So when you felt this way about like generally all living beings, like highly empathetic, like did you,
hurts me.
so did you feel like when your mom was like holding you down and forcing you to watch her mutilate gummy bears like when you were a kid, that kind of like fucked you up a little bit at the time?
Yeah, but
Okay.
I've always had feelings like that in an object's head.
All right, so what else?
But I also
like,
have bad
like,
OCD.
what else did she do to like kind of fuck with you?
I don't know. I feel like I'm criminalizing my mom.
No,
Getting,
you,
like
dude,
CPS
we're
calls.
literally just fucking talking. I mean,
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
this is
No,
what- first of all, none of this is your fault because you were a fucking kid. That's what I'm really asking about. Like, when
No,
you,
I just want to throw like like mom under the bus if there's anything I want to.
no, this is all right. First of all,
Well,
right now, because this is about you. Forget about her. This is about you. Because like I'm just talking. Honestly, the reason why I'm asking these things is because it's true. Like these are the kinds of things that literally
But the
block.
only reason they did this is because I was mentally fucked up, and they knew that I thought the gummy bears had feelings.
How is that a fucking excuse though?
Because it was funny to them. Because they to them
But it's
they
not-
knew they
it's
weren't
not- but
hurting
it-
any
But
gummy bears.
but that's horrible. If the kid feels genuinely bad for you to mutilate gummy bears in front of them, then yeah, it's
Yeah,
fuck.
I guess
That's
so.
not cool, dude. That's like, I mean, it may sound funny on the surface, like that might be one of the funny ones. But if other things like that happen that weren't as funny, like that's not a good sign. That it's obvious why you might have lived with like such a fucked up like root chakra compared, and then consecutive failure on every other chakra on top of that. When you would have like been able to like if shit like that was not a regular occurrence, maybe you would never have gotten that initial blockage, and maybe you would have been able to
I
like.
have no problem with murder. Like quick and easy assassination murder.
first of all,
but torture
dude,
fucks with my head.
Brendan,
the idea
Brendan.
of that, if I like, and just thinking about it now, like somebody somewhere is probably getting tortured.
Brendan,
And there's
honestly,
nothing I can
you know
do
what
about
you know what your deal is. Clearly, you are just an overly empathetic human being, and that's a detriment living in the normal society, in an average society. When you're overly empathetic, and
That might be a lot of reasons I like to drink because it shuts that down
Yes,
a lot.
yeah.
Because like
100%,
I know. Okay, I play a lot of open world RPGs, right? Now there's a lot of jokes about how like I'm gonna do a bad playthrough and then they just can't. Like I'm gonna shoot the fucking dog and then instead of helping this character, I'm gonna fucking kill all their kids. Because it sounds like a fun playthrough, but I cannot do it. But if I am drinking a lot, I could be the complete fucking cunt in the game, be like, and just like lose that part. But when I don't, if I hurt a good character in the game, I want to restart the fucking game. It's a fucking video game.
So what?
But they make them realistic now. But I feel bad for video.
I'm just
game
saying
characters.
you're allowed to reset the game if you fucking kill someone you don't want to. You could always do that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Like, I actually know. I remember watching Star Wars. One of the first. I remember watching Star Wars.
Brendan, you
A New
don't
Hope.
have to explain your fucking empathy to me, man. I get it. I get
You know
why
that
a person
droid,
would think
the
like you
garbage
do.
can droid that's taken
And you felt bad for the garbage can droid. Yeah, I get
and
it.
they're burning its feet, and
Yeah.
it goes, and it makes a sound. I'm like, they feel pain.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
fuck
yeah.
program them to feel pain.
I get it, Brendan. But I understand. So the problem is, first of all, you're not wrong for feeling empathetic. You're not stupid. You're not unreasonable. But the problem is, what it really means is a kind of spiritual immaturity. If you're overly empathetic for material things, there's a difference between my body. First of all, like if you understand the soul is immortal, right?
Yeah, but I still
listen.
the soul also feels pain through the body.
I know, I get it, but when all that's passed, it passes. So even if I were to like have my brains blown out, and same with you, our souls are immortal. We could have at least like, if you believe that, a person could honestly like have be comfortable with that. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi, if you strike me down, I'll be more powerful than you could ever imagine, because that's truly what it means to walk the spiritual path, is to eventually reach a state where if they kill you, your ego essentially persists, because you're basically a walking spiritual being in life. So if they kill you, you're just going to go back to what you always were. So it's like, that's really what it's about. And like, when you do that, I mean, yes, empathy is nice, but you're gonna see bigger than just like, oh, empathy for a person. Like, oh, what are they doing to his body? Oh my God, his poor body. Because you're gonna see every body as, first of all, their own immortal beings, lurking within them that they may not realize themselves, but it's there and you realize it. This is what I mean. Like, you got to really live with it. You got to really live according to it. Because if you just like vaguely know about it and choose to like sort of believe in it, but then like not really when it's not convenient, it's like, no. Like, if you truly believe in this stuff, then you could even handle torture, because you could understand it as like, this is me, like, if you kill me, if you strike me down, I'm going to be more powerful than you could ever fucking imagine, dude. I'm going to be at a place you could never ever reach, where there is no scarcity.
Yeah, but they have like, I've been watching like things about like, kids who remember past lives and shit and things, and then they actually prove that they were right about things. But there's also a lot of trains of thought that there is. Even the soul, what we think of as a soul, is another more subtle body that also carries trauma from other lives into the next lives. And it's like, this kid's deathly afraid of fucking water. Why is this kid so deathly afraid of fucking water? And then they find out he had a past life where he was a sailor and he died tragically in a horrible way. And he's always like, and he's still triggered by these things in this lifetime, because like somewhere his more subtle body remembers this instant happening. And that's why people like to like past life regression, because it actually heals trauma from the past lives, and then it cures something in the body or in the mental condition of this life in this body. And so I feel like there's different versions of the body. I feel like there's like the subtle body, and then there's like the astral body, and then there's like a more cosmic
body.
Like, and then I think it pans out to just like oneness with everything. Eventually, there's not even a body. You even give up the soul. The soul just merges with the oneness of it.
Yeah, it's like I describe it as like our souls are just water droplets, and God's is the ocean. And when we die, the water droplets go back to the ocean.
Yeah, it's like spirit is just the ocean, and then the soul is a drop from the ocean kind of thing, So I feel like our subtle bodies do carry on trauma, and they also need healing too. So,
but that's why they go back to the ocean.
Like, why are some people born certain way? Like, there's people who were born with like birthmarks and stuff, and then like the kid remembers some life, and they're like, okay, kids make shit up, blah blah blah. But then they get so intense about it that they do their research. They find out this person actually existed. This kid had no way of knowing this person existed in 1930 or someone, but something happened to this person, and they find out, oh yeah, they were slit right here by a knife, and then they died, and the kid was born with like a fucking birthmark right there. Like, it manifests itself into the physical body that's being born.
Yeah, maybe
that's where deformities and different illnesses come from.
Maybe all right. Like, I used to one time I was like, imagine if being born retarded was like a reward for like being really good in the past life. So it's like, all right, for this next life, you're gonna be super duper happy all the time. Everyone's gonna take good care of you, and you're gonna love fun size Snickers.
Yeah. It's just gonna be fucking easy. You're not gonna become a drug addict or get severely depressed because you have Down syndrome.
You're gonna love Sonic.
All you care about is John Cena and Snickers bars.
And Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog. And you're just hyper focused on like 3 things, and they make you so happy, and there's no fucking problems.
It's vacation for the soul. It's literally vacation for the soul.
You go to her, it's like you eat the same thing every day, and it doesn't bother you because you love that one thing. You just like, oh no, there's a comedian, Sean Gillis.
The world could be falling down around you, and you'll just have this doofy ass smile.
There's this newer comedian, Sean Gillis, I've been seeing, and he has a show now, but Shane Gillis, and he's talking about Down syndrome and making fun. He's like, oh, I'm allowed to because I have brothers that have Down syndrome, and it's funny. He's like, it's funny when people, say like, yeah, I have a brother with Down syndrome, and they go, oh, how's he doing? And he's just like, better than anyone else I fucking know. And he's like, it's like, there's no reason to feel bad. He's like, I have all these, like, I have a lot of Down syndrome in my family, and these are like the happiest fucking people I fucking know.
Jesus Christ.
The thing is, though, in our society, the way we made it, these people cannot function without like parental guidance and something else. They're not going to be able to just like go function like the rest of us. And is that like, we think about it as we think everything that's not the cookie cutter, go do this, get a job, and abide by our certain laws of society as a mental illness. Oh, this person can't function, they're retarded or something like that. It's like, how do you know they're not just living in a different state of consciousness? And then if everyone was like them, they would just form a different society with different rules.
This also helps me. I mean, yes, this helps me. My beliefs help me empathize.
Like autism, is that really a fucking problem?
Listen, my beliefs help me empathize with people better, I'd say, but it also helps me kind of like not be as sympathetic. Like, for example, they just like if I see a crackhead, I'm like, they're just another version of me. It's gonna make me less inclined to like really pity them out of identity politics or something. I'm just like, dude, you made your fucking decisions, man. I made my decisions at one point in my life, so trust me, I know. Like, I made my own shitty things in my fucking life. Like, I get it. So it's like,
it's kind of like I develop empathy from things like that though too, because like, okay, like, if I was fucking 15 years old or something and I saw some guy outside of a liquor store looking like shit and shaking and shit, like, oh, can I have $1, man? I just need to get right. I'd be like, fucking crackhead. But like, it being through what I've been through, I see that, I'm like, oh, that poor fucking guy. And like, I got lucky. Like, I would probably be right there if I didn't have like so many sorts of like good family and people who helped me. Because I fucked up enough to be homeless and on the streets.
So it's like when you're part of that frequency, it's almost like that frequency hasn't fully left you. So it's like it still takes from you. Even when you see the other guy come up to you and ask, because you've been a part of that frequency, it still resonates with you. So you have to give like a little bit of yourself. It's like a demon that's like it's like bleeding you.
I don't see it as a demon. I just see it as becoming less judgmental of other people and having empathy because you've been through the same thing.
I'm not talking about morality. I'm just saying like you it's a frequency that takes from you. Whether or not it's a right or wrong is irrelevant. I'm just saying, like,
you think about it, that's kind of how AA works. That's how people they get sober, and then their whole purpose now is to help other people that were just like them get sober. But that isn't that any spiritual practice? You become enlightened, and what's your job now? To help other people reach that state of consciousness. What's
wrong with that?
I'm saying that's not like a demon taking from you. That's just you rising above something and looking back behind you and going, oh shit, that motherfucker's still down there. Yo, I know the way out.
All right. First of all, you giving that crackhead in front of 7-Eleven a couple of dollars isn't helping.
No, but I'm that's the best I could do.
I mean, if you really gave a shit, you would really sit there and talk to him for like hours and hours and hours.
Oh no, I do that sometimes too, but I actually do that. The worst thing I'll do is if I'm like going out there and doing stupid shit and getting messed up, I will seek out other people who are doing worse than me. Oh, so God. If I'm going out and drinking and like if I'm
that's the most fucked up hobby I've ever heard.
It actually says in the big book, we sort out sorted places for camaraderie. So if I'm fucking up and I'm like drinking myself to death, right, or I'm doing drugs or some shit like that, I will go and like, oh, I know that guy is homeless that lays by the ferry, and I know he'll have a shot or two with me, and I'll go and I'll just sit next to like the homeless guy and I'll go hang out with him for a little bit and be like, yeah, I'm drinking again, and just hang out with people or hang out with like mentally ill people that I know that live on the streets and shit like that, and I'll like associate with different types of people like that, and I will seek that out. I will seek out friends in low places
because they make you feel safe.
Yeah, they make you because I drop my frequency to that. I want to be around that. My frequency is, I don't want to be around these fucking people who are vibrating here. This is my vibration now, and vibration just finds its nearest vibration, vibrates next to it, and it causes other things to vibrate with it.
You could change your vibration, though.
Yeah, and other people can change your vibration, but sometimes it's so discordant, it's disrupting your vibration that you're vibing with at that time.
Yeah, now, but to do it's so easy, though. It's like
it's funny because like the founder of AA.
I mean, it depends on how serious the shift is.
He had his spiritual awakening in the hospital. When he left this hospital, he was completely atheist before this. His first thing to do was, I'm going to go around to the worst places like Skid Row and all the bars where I see the worst people that are like fumbling on the ground like drunk and shit and can barely talk. And he would go up to these people and just be like, you just gotta find God. You just gotta turn your will over the God. And the people would just be like, get the fuck away from me. And it didn't work. He tried this for like 2 or 3 months. And he was like, this is how I'm gonna stay. So this happened to me. It was a miracle. I gotta tell everyone how to stay sober because this guy was fucked up. This guy was like going into seizures. The doctor said he was gonna die in like a year or so. He was pretty bad. He was like having like hallucinations and shit from the drink. And so he would go around to people and just be like, people like on the street like puking on themselves. He'd be like, you gotta find Jesus Christ. And they just be like, you're killing my buzz. Like, fuck the fuck off. And he's like, it didn't work. And then he went to the doctor that detoxed him. He's like, I don't know what to do, man. I'm going around trying to help these people and nobody wants to hear it. And he's like, Bill,
shut the fuck up.
How about you start off with talking about your drinking? Talk about how you, and then they'll be like, yeah, I drink like that too. I'm like, yeah, I drink like that, man. I love to do it like this. And then I just do it. And I drink and then pass out and then do it again. And then they start to vibe with him and be like, yeah, man, you fucking get it. Yeah, I get it. And then they'd slowly slip in the God shit. You know, he's like, don't start with God. People are going to think you're fucking crazy. So go out there, talk about how you drink like that. And then get them to start questioning like, well, what changed? Because now I understand that you were just like I am. So what changed it? Get them to start questioning you a little bit and drive into the hopelessness of it. So you have to make them hopeless first. So tell them about this drinking and tell them that there's no way that you could stop on your own power. And then and then finally make them hopeless, make them realize that they cannot beat this on their own and they cannot ever learn how to control their drinking to a point where it's safe.
Eventually you're going to lose your daughter. Eventually
this is going to because they'll be like, because any alcoholic who's doing this will always think like, okay, I just got to cut back and then maybe just stop for a week and then do this again, and then they end up in the same position and they just keep going through the cycle. So they try to break the cycle by telling me, it's like, you don't got this, buddy. You're fucked. Like, this has been happening since the dawning of time. There's been people like you and they die unless they have some kind of spiritual awakening, and so like they have to make you hopeless first.
It's just, there's like so many, like at any given night there's like so many things stopping me from getting too fucked up. It's like, I got work tomorrow, I have to fucking I want to have time to get a bike ride in, I also have to go to the dojo after work. I can't get that fucked up. I'll stay till like, and I know if I tell myself like 12, I really mean 1, so I'll be like, yeah, I'll leave at 11, and they'll be like, all right. And then I have my drinks that I allotted for myself. Like, I guess it's like caring. You really have to have a lot of energy for care. Like, care about the things that you care about. And like, it's really easy to not care. I think it's easier to not care than it is to care.
Well, especially when something else, like especially a chemical, can hijack your brain that well, and then like
makes it super, super duper easy to not care.
Because when you can make a plan before you drink. But the same person is not that there when after you had a.
But you know what becomes heavier? Like, let's say you start a hobby and you only put a week into it. It's really easy to not give a shit about something you only put a week into. But let's say you put like 2 weeks, even 3 weeks, maybe even a month, right? Suddenly you start to care a little bit more. But if something really good comes up and you have to drop it, you'd be like, fuck it, I was only doing it for a month. But what if that month goes on for 5 months, eventually 6 months, then a year? You what started out as this bullshit thing that you were only doing for fun, you've been doing for a year now, and you're getting pretty good at it. Like, if anything, maybe even better than most. So you do it, and like you do it again for another year, and suddenly you're pretty good at it, and then do it for 3 years. Now you could say you're actually really decent. So this is how I think like people really make lives. Now, the reason why not everyone gets to do this is because normally in life there are so many distractions. Like I said, before you even get to that week or month phase, there's going to be something coming along that seems better, and you're going to go chase that. You're going to drop this thing that was originally good for you. It's like, oh no, we could just go do coke like for like 7 days straight. It's like, all right, that sounds way better. It's summer, I'm in my 20s.
Say the first couple months of recovery are the most dangerous, like the most like sketchy.
So what I'm saying is, like, when you the trick is people think it's all about, to live life, you got to try all these different things constantly, all these different things. I think, yes, that may be true, but you also have to allot time for one thing that you can't stop doing. One thing. For me, it's martial arts and, bike riding and making music. Okay, so it's 3 things. But that means that's 3 things that's 3 of the things I have to keep doing, 3 of the same things I have to keep doing. So what that means is the trade-off is, yes, I'm not out there trying all sorts of different things, but eventually, like, I could say I've tried out quite a few many things, in regards to sex, drugs, and a little bit of rock and roll, like in music. I mean, I still do music stuff. It's just, all I'm saying is there's only so many things you could like invest your energy and time in that's eventually going to fuck you up, and it. There's only so many different drugs you can do. There's only so many times you can get fucking blackout drunk.
I must have some semblance of control over certain, because I've never, ever, in any time I've had a show or any type of performance, I've never, ever been too messed up to do it. I can hold off. Like, okay, say if I start drinking, I'm drinking all day. Now, it's not good to wake up and start drinking all day, right? But I know how to hold off getting fucked up from it until a later time when it's appropriate to do so. I might sometimes go over, and that depends on how far down the line I went. So there's been times where, yeah, I know how to, like, I'll take a shot now, 2 shots. Okay, I don't want to get drunk. I have to get through the workday. But there's been also times where I take, like, 1 or 2 shots, and then I'm in the locker room getting ready for work, and then I'll be like, let me just do 1 more. Oh, just 1 more. And then before I know it, I'm like, uh-oh, shit, okay, I got to play it off. That's happened to me, too,
It also almost feels like a game at that point.
It's something thrilling about it. It's bad. That's like that part of me. It's like it's exciting.
But you gotta understand, it's like
when you relax, it's an exciting thing.
That's
it's scary and exciting. But it's a stupid idea, but you're just like, ooh, I'm being naughty. It feels like a naughty. It's like sexual in a way.
But it's so immature. Like when you actually live life, there's so many bigger games. Like you're talking about, like, yes, that's a risk. You know what? I recently came.
Getting away with it, doing something.
Okay, listen. Look, there was a time when, like, during COVID. This is what I got away with in COVID. And this almost became like a really bad addiction. So I had, like, built up a decent chunk of money, like about, like, using, I don't know, I want to say like $1,500. I made $4,000, right, off of oil stocks because they were like dirt cheap during the initial wave of the pandemic, just like everything else. But I knew oil would go back up, so I bought mad oil stocks, went up to 4,000, and then eventually I used that 4,000 to buy 100 shares of GameStop. And that shot up. And I eventually, like, I could have made a lot more, to be honest, but I eventually made like $9,000 profit. And then after that, like, I just went on like a crazy win streak. I lost a bunch. So ultimately I came ahead like about 20K or so. But still, like, that was a thrill ride. Like, could you imagine that? Like, instead of playing with, like, oh, am I gonna get caught or for relapsing or something like that, imagine playing with like tens of thousands of dollars.
Well, I think so. Gambling's such a big addiction. It's the danger of it.
Yeah,
like,
but
oh my god, I'm like, I might fucking lose everything.
Let's say you get over that. Then you go on to the next level. It's like, oh my god, I bought this property. I own this fucking apartment building now. Like, I used that money, I invested it wisely, and now I have an apartment building. And then now the game is, what kind of tenants am I gonna get? Like, am I gonna get the right, like, rich, spoiled college drug addict kid who's gonna pay his rent as long as he can do whatever he wants in the apartment, or am I gonna get some strung out single mom in her fucking mid-30s who's not gonna pay like rent after the fucking second month, and I'm gonna have to deal with like a fucking squatter tenant, like. And then after that game, it's like, all right, now I have like a whole block of apartments. Like I have a bunch of buildings, and now it's all about like figuring out the managers that'll manage it. So it's like the game just gets bigger and bigger, man.
Yeah, it's something about that, like, especially with like bad things like gambling, drugs, things like that. I've always
They're all sidetracking you on your way up. Like
something about getting away with it is exciting. Like, I'm doing these things and nobody knows I'm doing it, and I'm somehow making and getting away. It's like it's almost like the egotistical pride, like, oh my god, nobody knew I was fucking doped out, kind of shit like that. Like, I used to do things when I had to go to like a really corporate building and make a delivery.
I think, like, the more you win, the easier it is to like eventually make one wrong move and you slip all the way down past all the gaps you made, eventually back down to like heroin land. Like, I think like you could be.
I go to meetings all the time. I hear about this shit all the time.
You go from millionaire to like whoops, and then you slip like all the way down.
Yeah, that's the problem with that's what makes, I think it's like worse for people who like sometimes it is worse for people who like aren't like daily drinkers or like heavy binge drinkers.
It depends on what you're out,
because everything is going great. Let's blow it up.
It depends on what your fucking outlets are.
It's like
okay,
the Mandela thing.
It depends on what your outlets are, and I say outlets plural because it's not just one outlet. One outlet cannot contain the full power of a human. That's why we eventually go to like so many different toxic outlets, which like, for example, like stupid bitches / dudes that ain't shit, stupid, like, sticking around stupid friends. You are the 5 people that you spend the most time with, spending your time around like stupid activities, like, getting loaded all the time and wasting your time indoors in your bedroom, all that shit, like all that negative shit. There's that, like that's just you just gotta, I don't know. It's I don't even want to sound like I don't even want to go on with this because at that rate I'm gonna sound like I don't know preachy, but all I'm saying is like you got to really be careful on your with like what you do with your energy, pretty much.
I think that's also a lot. I've heard a lot of like addicts and people talk about this, and like, yeah, I read a lot of them say it's like they are so used to chaos and shit. When things are going good for them, that's when it's the most dangerous. When everything is going great, because then they're like they wanna. It's like something deep down inside of them wants to ruin it, because it's comforting. Because when you're at the bottom, there's nowhere to fall from. It's if you're a fucking junkie walking around the streets with shit on your pants, there's nowhere to fall from there, man. Like except for death. So you're already at your. It's comfortable. You don't care if people judge you, whatever. You have nothing to lose. So you're just out in the street begging for money, trying to get drugs. But if you have, if you're a functioning drug addict and you have a business and a company, and you have something to lose, it's like, it's a lot. I feel like it's even worse. It's even more tempting because you're like, oh my god, I might lose it all, and then you kind of want to secretly do it at the same time.
Yeah, and you have a family too, and you live in a big.
It's easy when you have less. Like the more things, like if I'm doing well and things start going good for me, I start automatically. My brain starts thinking, oh, something tragic's gonna happen, isn't it?
And you make it happen though. If you think that way.
You because
you
not
manifested
used to.
it, Brendan. You manifest your fuck ups every single time.
Oh, I think everyone manifests their own fuck ups.
All right, can we take a pee break real quick?
Yeah, let's take a pee break. Are we back?
Yeah, we're back.
Yeah, there's something about it's like it's hard because like when I try to go on like the spiritual path, recovery, and so this also that part of me that like enjoys the like I did this bad thing. That's like something deep down. It's like also wants to do those things.
Yo, Brendan, can I be honest with you? I never gave a fuck about wanting to walk a spiritual path. I don't even think I still at this point do. I think
the ego ever gives a fuck about. The ego does not want that.
I think what happened is it was like fell upon me because of a combination of accidental things, and I think that happens sometimes with people. I think sometimes it really does. Like, because for me, it was just purely I had a love for the things that I had a love for. Like, despite all the shit with my relationships with like friends and family and girls and women, whatever, like all that stuff, like throughout my life, like it was always like there was the stuff that I loved that kind of outweighed whatever bad that happened in my life. Like I looked at stuff like music and bike riding and martial arts and like stuff I loved. And I was like, this is worth working really hard for. This is worth suffering through every bad relationship for. This is worth suffering through bad relationships with my family for. Like, the stuff I love is worth it to me in this life. To continue experiencing it and even better contributing to it, like, this is worth it to me. This is worth staying on the true path. This is worth, like, fucking, like despite all the shit, like not running away to drugs, not running away to alcohol, like knowing I could make all the hurt better and just not doing that for the sake of knowing that if I just suffer through this, it'll make my music like more accessible, to make. It'll save me some money for more bike parts. It'll save me some money so I could like learn martial arts, shit like that. That makes it worth it. And ironically enough, when you pursue the things you earnestly love that doesn't have anything to do with other people or drugs or anything like that, like when you earnestly give to that, it gives back to you. It gives you skills. It gives you discipline. It gives you strength, like it gives you courage. Because like martial arts was something like kind of silly and kind of gay, like, oh, you want to get into samurai sword shit, but yeah, I did it, and I gave my body to it, I gave my mind to it, I gave my heart into it, and it gave right back.
I don't think it's pretty gay. I think it's pretty fucking cool.
I'm just saying,
what normal fucking man thinks fucking fighting with swords isn't cool?
All right.
No boy or man, anyone growing up ever thought sword fighting wasn't. That's like what we did as kids, from lightsabers to swords. Anytime you find a fucking stick, this is a sword now. Everyone, even to this day, as I do, I want to pick up a thing and like you see all these new lightsaber things, and I want one so fucking bad.
I think swords.
I could be fucking 50.
I think swords are very spiritual weapons. There's something about a sword that's like very.
There's something spiritual about it.
Yeah.
I don't know what that. You're right. There is. There's something. Yeah. It's like the ultimate hero's weapon of the hero story. Like a gun. That's lame. Like now God was God. He could have given that angel to guard the fucking
A
tree of
spear.
knowledge.
Yeah, you could give him-
Anything. No, he gave him a flaming fucking sword.
Yeah.
He could have given him a fucking nuclear bomb. You know, like a fucking grenade. You know,
But no,
no,
he-
it's a fucking sword, of course. You know, so it's cause something about like slicing through something. I don't know. It's something smiting something down or leveling something. You know.
Well, it's also like sacred geometry. Like
Cutting
the shape,
something
the
down.
shape of a sword is always going to be a wedge of some kind, and it creates like a natural triangle. So it's like that's such a just a natural energetic focal point. You know, like when it comes to like kinetic function and all that shit. Like it's just beautiful. It's perfect.
I
It's
wonder how
art.
they first discovered that. Like the first person to find out, like the thinner and pointier something is, the more it goes through
Well,
something.
what I'm saying, it's like why bother inventing a sword if you already have spears? Unless like swords were just something that they always knew
Well, because
about.
spears you can only do a stabbing motion. Swords you can go stab, slice from different angles. It's more practical, and you know like plus a double-edged sword. It's a little different with the samurai sword because you can only go like that's why a lightsaber is the ultimate sword because you don't need an angle. It is a round cylinder beam that slices through anything like it's butter. So you can just go any direction. It doesn't matter. With a katana, you have to like go, and then you have to get them this way. You can't just go backwards like this. You can't just go shoo, shoo, like a lightsaber. You have to go like this, turn your wrist, and then go the other way.
Yes.
You know, with a lightsaber, you can just go and just get through fucking anything.
Yes, but they don't fight like that.
No, they don't. Well, it's just all choreographer. You can only do so much with choreography before they start fucking up. So, like, if you
Well,
watch the
no,
like
I
any
mean-
lightsaber battle, like even with Darth Maul, it looks fucking crazy and fast and epic. But you see, like, they could have Obi-Wan could have went up like this, hit his lightsaber, and at the same time, Qui-Gon could have went like, but no, they don't do that with choreography. They go, okay, you're gonna go like this, hit me like this, and then you're gonna wait. And you see, there's like a 3-second pause where he's like, okay, he makes contact with the lightsaber, now I go in. And it's like very, that wouldn't how it would be in real life.
Well, any lightsaber battle, like they have it's funny. Look, the truth is, like a real
Except
lightsaber.
that last part when Obi-Wan
real
goes after
lightsaber-
Maul, that's like the best part when he goes behind the bed and he like blocks it like he's standing sideways and he goes like this to both sides of him and he just goes like and it happens so fast and I'm like that's good choreography. That's some good shit. But it's only the single battles that can have good ones like that. And that's like very few lightsaber battles and you notice with lightsaber battles, they are not aiming for the body. Then it's not realistic. If you're fighting, you're like, we have sword fights, it ends pretty fucking quickly with the point. Because you're aiming for my body. They're aiming for the lightsaber. Because they're only trying to hit, they're trying to make it look like a real sword fight's going on. And it looks great. It looks flashy. But what about that stupid fucking part? When Dooku and Anakin, or with Obi-Wan and Anakin, where they go, like, what the fuck was this shit for? If we were doing this outside and we were both like, oh, like that's not a fucking way of fighting with sword. And then they're aiming for the sword itself. They can see it's not. They don't even have the length. Even like if they went like this, and there was no lightsaber there, it would just go and miss the person completely. So it's not really realistic.
I mean,
sword fights.
another ridiculous thing was they had a lore explanation for this one tactic that they said was forbidden amongst lightsaber duelists, which was where it's like, let's say I swing a lightsaber at you, and then you go to block it with your lightsaber, and then just turn it off, and then and then
No.
turn it
Oh,
back
you
on.
watch those YouTube videos.
No, I mean, I read the lore aspect where they say they specifically forbid that technique. I'm like, that's stupid.
That's a real. No, because I saw a joke like cartoon about that, and he's like turning off the lightsaber, and then he's able to turn it on. He has it in his hilt, and he just goes, and he's like, he can't reach it to turn it off the right way.
No, I was just saying it's like we fought, and then just when you thought I was gonna swing down, I just turned it off.
Yeah,
and then turn back on.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of discrepancies there. You know, there's a lot of.
I mean, you don't have to use it as a sword. You could literally use it as a flashlight beam, like.
Well, they did for the first time, which I thought was cool. The only one, like, very, very few cool things in the newer ones was in The Last Jedi when they're fighting all the royal guards after he kills Snoke. And, like, he's like, Snoke's sitting there and he's like, kill Rey now. And Rey's, like, force suspended up there. And he's like, I feel you reaching for your saber, ready to smite your enemy. And really, he has a lightsaber sitting next to him, and the lightsaber slowly turning and goes, and he goes down, and then there's one part where Rey is trapped by the one guard like this, and then he throws his lightsaber to her, and she goes like this, and just goes through his head. It's like, and just goes through his head. And like, there were certain things I'm like, oh, cool, they finally did that in there. You know, there were certain parts of those lightsaber battles that were actually pretty cool, and like I liked how the lightsaber attacked and like the way they killed people with them were more brutal, especially with like Ben Kenobi or whatever his fucking whatever Sith name he had, fucking Kylo Ren. But like, it was more brutal. It was a little bit more violent and edgy, the lightsaber, like how they killed with the lightsabers and shit like that. So I like that. But it makes sense because these are like people, this is after the Jedi Order. There's not as many formalities and techniques. It's just people, like Rey picks up a lightsaber and uses it like any other blunt weapon. You know, but what I don't like is when, like, shit with Mace Windu, when he's like, I think we talked about this before, but he lifts up, dude, and he's like, kill him, and he's like, why are you fucking going all the way up here to strike this guy? It's a fucking lightsaber. Just go, you know, like, you don't really got to do much, right? It's just gonna go right through the flesh.
You want to smite his ass with the mighty justice of the purple lightsaber.
Yeah. It's like I like when people like super analyze Star Wars. I'm like, you can certain aspects of it, but it's like it's also.
Do you think Star Wars is very spiritual?
To me, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because it is a spiritual story. George Lucas did add a lot of spiritual elements into it. He did make up a whole religion and put it in there.
I mean, it's pretty much ripping off
a conglomeration of pretty much all the world's religions. That's how he defined it, and he defines himself as a Buddhist Methodist or something like that. It's weird.
You know what I recently watched? I recently watched the whole Hobbit trilogy movie and the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and here's the deal about it.
It's also very spiritual to me.
Yeah, I think the thing about Lord of the Rings and what I really enjoy about it is that it's not political, really. It's not important in terms of like the geopolitics of the modern world as we know it today. It's not like relevant, honestly.
Well, it is kind of, because they have elves, dwarves, and men.
I
and they
know,
all have
but it's
issues.
not. But it's not really about that. You know, it's not really. It's because it's fantasy ultimately, and the fantasy has the benefit of being detached from reality, because that's the whole point of fantasy. Now, but despite that, what I will say about it, I mean, because despite not being relevant to, like, I don't know, important modern material, I mean, it can be if you choose it to be, but it's not like as in your face about it. You know, it's not like specifically made with the intention of like, making a great political statement that's so super duper in your face relevant to us. If it is, it's very subtle. But what I will say also is that, like, compared to other fantasy worlds, like Middle Earth still does reflect our world so much. Like, if you told me 50,000 years ago, before the Great Flood, as we know it, like, the world was a magical place and Lord of the Rings was our actual history of like 50.
Yeah, I always thought about that.
I would believe that.
Yeah.
I would be like, that's not that crazy. You know, like, if you told me, if you gave me some proof, I'll be like, you know what, that's not that insane. Yeah, I would be skeptical, but it's not as crazy. Because like, compared to D&D, like, Lord of the Rings is very grounded. Like, Tolkien verse is very...
Well, it does. It could, like, he was. I think it was semi-made to also be almost like a part of history that was erased. And I think Tolkien has said this before. It's like, it's so. And they even talk about in Lord of the Rings, certain things that used to be real end up becoming myth and end up becoming legend, and it's just a fake story.
I forgot.
You know, certain things like Balrogs. It's like, okay, that was like how many thousands of years ago? We don't even know if this really exists. And then there was one, and the only people that are scared when he says a Balrog is Gandalf and Legolas, because they're the only motherfuckers who were still alive when these things were like finally ending. So they're like, holy shit, there's one down there, we're fucked. But there is a political thing, because Tolkien lived very quiet village area, very nature oriented, and that's like the Hobbiton. He pretty much grew up in the Shire. That's what the Shire is, his hometown to him. And then the orcs represent industrialization. You know,
he was not really a fan of industrialization.
Yeah, he didn't like that. It was just like a blight. It was like a cancer growing, and that was like, you know, kind of, and that's why it's almost like how Star Wars happened too. Like, I guess George Lucas ripped off of that. It's like the forces of nature, like, end up coming in to help, just like when they're invading Yavin or whatever, Endor, and you know, they're losing, the rebels are getting their asses kicked, and then and then the Ewoks, the natives, the nature itself of the planet rises to the occasion and fights off the evil there. Same with Tolkien's world. What happens? They're in the fucking the trees come up and they fucking attack them, and then the eagles come and they help. All the different forces of nature, and that's kind of like what Earth is going to do. No matter what we build technologically and what we fuck up, nature is going to take out what it doesn't fucking want. If we fuck up the ozone or something like that, it's not the planet that's going to die. It's the planet's going to kill us off. It's going to heal itself by fucking flooding us or burning us or something like that. And that's like how it kind of works out in Star Wars. It's usually the natives, and that's why Andor was like the best Star Wars show ever. Did you watch that one yet?
No.
It's the beginnings of the rebellion, and it's like one of the main characters from
Rebel One. Yeah, that was a great movie. And it's so great. He doesn't care that much. He's just kind of like a criminal, and he ends up getting into it. And he doesn't want to join the rebels. He wins. They do this whole heist, and he gets a shit ton of money. He tries to help his mom out, but she stays because she's kind of linked to the rebellion, but it's underground. And he's like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna go live on this luxury planet with all the money I have now, and just live like a rich person." After the heist, and he's on his way, and he's like, "Hey, stop there! Why are you loitering, sir?" He's like, "What do you mean I'm not loitering?" He's like, "Dude, what do you have in your pocket?" And they arrest him and they throw him into jail, where it's like, okay, you're gonna serve this much time, and everyone has to work, and they don't realize they're actually building parts of the Death Star, and they're in that, and they realize slowly that they just killed a bunch of people because they got released and they got put back into the system, and they realize they're not actually releasing the prisoners when they're telling them they're going to release. They're just transferring them to another place to give the illusion to all the other prisoners that you get out. So they're really just holding them there as slaves, and they're just arresting random people for petty bullshit and keeping them there to build weapons on the Death Star. And it's this huge breakout thing. It's fucking awesome. It's so violent and really gritty. Stormtroopers can shoot in this. And at the end, it's pretty much a rebellion of the town. It's like there's a funeral, and there's a funeral march, and the rebels have, the stormtroopers have a hold on this planet, and they're using it, and they're like, yeah, don't let them, we're gonna allow them to do this funeral thing in the town square only at 3:00 from this time to this time. And then all of a sudden they start hearing the horns and the marching band come through, and it's such a beautiful fucking moment. And they're like, wait, show of force. They're starting early. We didn't let them do this. And they come in, and it's just a funeral, and in the funeral, there's a hologram of the person that died, and they pretty much rally everyone to attack their overrulers at this point, and they try to shut it down, and everyone just eventually but most of them die because these people are fighting with fucking wooden, a riot, and there's people with guns and shit, and they're attacking the riot shields and shit like that, and with batons and shit, and then finally they just corner them all and start shooting them down. But it's such a beautiful fucking moment, and I love stories like that where it's the nature, the natives, and it rises to fight the evil that's corroding it, Okay. And there's a great speech in it how they can never win because they are always in resistance to they always have to keep the oppressors. They always have to keep fighting to keep this control. And they're eventually going to slip up. No matter how hard they try to keep control over everything and everybody, they're constantly in fear and trying to fight this, and eventually they're going to fail. Well, in the Tolkienverse, in the world of the Lord of the Rings, it wasn't just about the men, because there were other races too, which were ultimately a part of the same. Because for example, there were the elves, and the elves represented the truly spiritually ascended beings.
Yeah, they were leaving. At the end, in Lord of the Rings, this was the last age of the elves. Were yeah, we're leaving this realm and going to the next one. But then some of them stayed to help men and fight off. And that's why I like how it could be a part of our history, because
elves left, dwarves died out.
Yeah, dwarves died out, elves left, hobbits. I don't know what the fuck happened. They just became.
Yeah, what happened?
That's Ireland.
Maybe they still exist.
No, that's Ireland. You have short people that fucking hairy feet and just drink too much.
Maybe they lived in Hollow Earth.
What?
Maybe the hobbits moved to Hollow Earth.
Hobbits are fucking.
Maybe Hollow Earth is where the elves
hobbits are fucking Irish people. That's what they are.
Maybe the Tolkienverse elves are actually the Pleiadians.
Ever see Tolkien? Tolkien's a hobbit.
Seriously, think about it. Imagine that the Pleiadians are the elves of Tolkienverse.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, But
And
yeah,
they're living in Antarctica, Hollow Earth, or like the alternate dimensional gate in Antarctica, where it goes to like, you know.
yeah, but then you have the wizards are not. That's why I don't like Harry Potter, because like I had a post about this on Facebook. But like wizards in Lord of the Rings are gods. They were created by Iluvatar, which is the main spirit, and manifested itself into 5 different wizards placed in different parts of Middle Earth, not to use too much magic, but to guide the other races into fighting this evil. And the whole story of that evil is, like in the Silmarillion, is the Iluvatar is like the main spirit, and everything is created by vibrational song. And some of the spirits decide to weave a different tune into it, like negative notes and bad things. And the Iluvatar, the main god, is like, no matter what you do to the song, no matter how much you put it out of tune, I will find a way to make the song even better with that out of tune note and weave it back into the way I want the song to go. So it's almost like a song where you play a minor note and it sounds a little discordant, but it goes back into the major
note,
and it makes the song even better. Instead of making it discordant, it's kind of like that. It's a giant song. And so like the wizards were like the way of changing that note in the song. And they were meant to guide, but Gandalf's the only one who did his job right. Saruman fucked up, ended up becoming corrupt. He was supposed to be the main motherfucker. That's why when he died, when he failed, Gandalf came back as the White Wizard. He became the leader, because the Iluvatar were like, when he died, they were like, we're sending you back, but now you're the main motherfucker because you're the only one doing your job right.
But there was also well,
But he sends the weakest motherfucker to Mordor. That's why it's a great story. They don't send the main muscular hero. They're like, this guy, this main Death Lord, is probably going to think that Aragorn's going to take this shit and then march in with the ring on and try to fight him, and he's going to kill him. He's not expecting me to send this little shit that eats too much into fucking hell with a ring. And like the whole time, the Eye of Sauron's like, where the fuck is Aragorn? Where? I'm gonna kill them all. At the same time, right under his nose are these little motherfuckers, just like, oh,
like little
fuck.
midgets, yeah.
Yeah, these little midgets are crawling under there. Like Gandalf took a big risk with that shit, you know. But like that was the whole point. And at the end, when Aragorn's like, let's go, we have to attack him. Because then he's gonna have his eye on us.
Because I have the crown.
Yeah,
you know, I'm the king.
Yeah, he's like he would in any other story he would be the main character.
Because he remembers that his ancestor Isildur was the one who fucked his shit up. So he's gonna look at Aragorn like, I got you. I got your number, bro.
And
like,
anyone else would have made Aragorn the main hero of the story, but he's not. One of the weakest, physically weakest characters is the one who's pretty much the main hero of the story. Not the strongest, not the most powerful. It's that little fuck.
What is really interesting,
the humbleness, and it shows like humbleness beat him. It wasn't sheer power that beat Sauron. It was the most. There's a part in the book.
It wasn't just humble. They were very courageous. It was humble yet brave.
Yeah. Also, they're less. Hobbits weren't as like men fucked up.
I mean, when were the hobbits ever cowards? Really? All the hobbits ever did. If anything, they were too brave. Like but
hobbits are known for being cowards. They talk about how hobbits didn't like to go on adventures. Hobbits didn't like excitement or danger or anything different. They stay in their little hobbit holes, safe and cozy.
I'm just saying, Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin. None of them were cowardly. They were brave in every instance. Like,
but they did not want to do this shit.
But they were always brave every single time. Like Frodo was like, "What must I do?" Samwise Gamgee was like, "No, I go with Frodo." Merry and Pippin were like, "No, we got to do what's right." Because
all hobbits want to do is drink, smoke
but
pipe
right,
weed.
Yes, listen, you're right. I'm saying the reason why the 4 of them knew was because they knew if they failed in this, like even if they did want to go back to their lives,
they weren't going to get to go back to
because
their lives,
if they failed, then they lose all of that. Then nobody gets to just smoke, eat, drink, and be merry and
dance and sing.
Because they know if they fail in their task, then eventually the Shire also will get eaten, and then no one will get to have anything. So to them, like, it's all worth it, because like even if they lost their lives, they're like, dude, we have to. If we don't do this, then we'll lose all of that. We will.
It's funny because there's the part where Shelob the spider gets Frodo, and then they capture Frodo's body. And in the book and stuff, and even in the cartoon back in the 70s, it's a part of the book though. Sam takes the ring from Frodo, so they don't get the ring,
and yet Sam gives it back.
And and in the book, the ring starts trying so fucking hard right away to get Sam. to fucking
And
trap
Sam's
him.
like, oh, I just want to make the best pumpkin or something.
Yeah, he's like the ring's like because it finds out what your desires are. So that's what Gandalf is like. Don't give me the fucking ring because the ring's gonna be like, you can use my power to save the world.
And Galadriel also denied it.
You
that's
could
how she
not
passed,
give that shit to somebody who had strong desires.
Yeah.
The hobbits don't give a fuck about anything but like, I want to make some good potatoes.
Yeah.
So it was hard to corrupt them because they didn't want much. They were very simple. Men wanted to rule things and shit. That's why they got so corrupted.
And the elves were like obsessed. Yeah.
The elves are too smart. They were like, this is a trick, isn't it? Yeah, we don't want the fucking rings.
Yeah.
And the dwarves were like so greedy about other shit that they were like, yeah, ain't that some shit? Let's get more crystals. Dig. You know, so they had other things. They were so greedy about one thing that they couldn't be corrupted.
That were the most corrupt.
The men were just like, we can use this to rule and save our kingdom and shit. That's why Boromir fucked up. He's like, why not use the fucking ring? And they're like, don't you fucking get it, dumbass? This is what happened in the beginning. This is why there's ring wraiths chasing us. This was people like you. And Sam got in, he's like, I want to be Sam, the greatest gardener. And the ring's like, really?
You idiot.
Okay, if that's what we're working on, this is what we got to work with. Okay, yes, I will make you the best gardener. Just put me on for fuck's sake. Trying to get him to do anything. Frodo, I think when it got him, it was just telling him like, if you put me on, you'll be safe and they can't get you. You can hide. But it's not actually turning you invisible. It's actually turning you
in the spirit world
into a wraith, and that's why they can see you even harder. The wraiths have 1 foot in spirit world, 1 foot in material.
Well, it's their armor that gives them.
I guess so. Yeah, they're like nothing underneath. They're like ghosts, kind of. Yeah, they're like half and half. They're like not in either world fully. They're kind of trapped in between.
That's another thing I really liked about it is that the elves have their own afterlife. Like if you kill an elf in battle or something, their soul goes to a different place, like different halls.
Oh no, they actually physically go to across the sea to the Undying Lands.
Well, that too. No, but that also happens. Yeah, the Undying Lands is a real place for the elves. So when you kill them in battle, their soul goes to the Undying Lands, and for like certain cases, well, I think generally they do get reincarnated. Like honestly,
I think they just die.
No, I think they get reincarnated, and I think men's souls go to different halls. I think men's souls, like that's the thing. That was actually really fascinating to me. Like when I discovered that like elf spirits go to a different afterlife than like human spirits, then I was like, what happens to like when like an elf and a human have a kid? Like where do their spirit? Because I know Arwen sacrificed her shit, so she chose like her elder soul left when she chose to stay behind, right? So that means she would die, and she would die as like a mortal, a human. Yeah. So where do the humans go? And I think that was kind of like in line with like, remember the army of the dead people that Aragorn like basically recruited and was like, you guys.
Yeah, they had unfinished business. They made an oath that they didn't fulfill, and they let
them pass on, and that's where they let them pass on to, which is the place where the.
Yeah, I didn't look into that, like what they mean as an afterlife.
No, they do. They have
the afterlife. That the Undying Lands is a very physical but mystical place, and actually at the end of it, Frodo and Bilbo get sent to the Undying Lands after a certain time because they actually. And later on in the book, when they get to the Shire, in the movie it ends like they get happily ever after. But in the book, they get back to the Shire, and Saruman is there with that little fucking bastard. They died they killed him off in the movie, but in the book, Saruman. He says your staff is broken. You have no power now. And he instead of killing him, he makes him wallow around in like fucking pitifulness. Like you're just gonna be old piece of shit walking around like wearing rags. So he fucking makes his way to the Shire, and then starts enslaving with orcs and shit, enslaving all the other hobbits. And when they get back to Hobbiton, it's all industrialized and fucked up. But Merry and Pippin are badass now and been through war, so they come in and start fucking shit up. And then Merry and Pippin pretty much like take out all the orcs, and then they eventually it's funny how they kill the ring is able to put curses on you. So like an oath, if you make an oath over the ring, like when he told Smeagol to swear on something, he's like, swear on the precious, and he's like, the ring is treacherous, it'll hold you to your oath. So what happened was in the movie it made it look like he fell in when he stole the ring, he danced and then he fell into the pit. In the book, he made an oath with the ring that saying, if you lay a finger on Frodo and try to hurt him, I will cast you into the fire myself. So when he took the ring from Frodo, the ring was like, and the ring fucked itself over.
Yeah.
Because it made this oath that I will cast, but since he had the ring in his hand, he threw himself into the fire, and the ring's like, oh fuck, I fucked up, and then went into the fire. So the ring, by making that oath and making it that he would fall into the fire if he took the ring from Frodo, that's what killed the ring. The ring pretty much accidentally killed itself.
With its own enchantment.
Yeah, with its own fucking enchantments. I like that idea. But the ring, like, in the book is way more scary and fucked up. Like, it's doing fucked up things to your head the whole fucking time. It's like saying shit to you all the time. That's why Gollum was fucking crazy. You know, the thing was still fucking talking to him in his head the whole time. He was like, it was like a really fucked up thing.
All right, so if like imagine like Lord of the Rings was a thing, and like a great giant flood just wiped out most of the earth except a handful of men, and that's our world now. Like, that would be some shit, right? That would be some crazy shit.
So dinosaurs were just dragons we're digging up.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we're putting the bones together
And
the wrong way.
we have giant like skeletons, presumably, like,
They
apparently.
have a cave troll. That was actually in the book. It's not as cool. There's no cave troll in the book.
No, I think in reality, it's nothing as extravagant as like Tolkien verse.
It's funny in the
But
book.
it's definitely, we got some weird shit going on in like ancient civilization land. You know, I think they had some weird stuff happening. You know,
Like in the book, they said a giant orc chieftain came out through the door. He was 5.5 foot tall. I'm like, what? The fuck kind of monster is that? Like, and they made it a little more intense in the movie. It's like a cave troll. This thing's fucking 12 feet fucking tall, and it has a giant club. It made it cool. You know, have you ever seen the cartoon version of the Balrog? It is the most unimpressive, like, dude, like, not scary thing at all. It doesn't actually have wings either. That's what they did it more correctly in the
Peter Jackson.
yeah, in the
movies.
Peter Jackson movie, because its wings, they said, it stretched out these two shadowy, like, so it's like just these shadows and stuff.
Dude, how crazy are the Peter Jackson movies? They're fucking nuts.
They did it's amazing how they're able to actually, like, get that book into a movie and do it well.
That was crazy.
That's the best cinema ever.
Dude, it's honestly freaky. Like, it's very mystical. Like, if it still holds up to time. That's what's amazing about it. Like, you watch that shit in 2024, you're like, it's still an incredible experience.
It'll never not be incredible. I think it's a beautiful. It's a fucking work of art.
Like, everything,
from the music to everything.
I mean, you know what's crazy too? It's a lot. It's a lot of shit. There's so much. It's like each one is like at least a 3-hour movie. Right?
Yeah, it sucked me as a kid because, like, I'd always have to pee. I remember the first time I saw the Lord of the Rings: Fellowship of the Ring, and I'm like trying to hold it in, like, how much longer? And it wasn't even. I didn't know how long this movie was gonna be. And there was a part where it's the lady of the water, and she's pouring the water slowly, and I'm like,
fuck this.
I gotta go. I gotta fucking go. And I like missed the crucial
and
part.
then when you see the extended versions, they're like 4-hour movies each.
Yeah.
You know, so you're like, what the fuck? Like, if to watch all of them, it would take a whole day. Like, to watch the extended cuts of every single movie, that's like a whole day's experience.
You know, you ever watch Walk Hard?
No.
Oh.
By Huey Lewis?
What?
Yeah, Walk Hard, all the music thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the extended version's like 4 hours long.
Really?
It's crazy. And there's so many songs in that. And it was all written with what's his name? John C. Reilly.
I gotta see this.
It's good. I love the Bob Dylan ones because it's like it starts off with just a spoof of the Johnny Cash movie pretty much, but then he goes on to, like, you know, he becomes different kind of artists. And there's one part where he's just like Bob Dylan. It shows him in black and white. It's like, let me hold you, midget man. But there's one song where he's just like, mailboxes drip like lampposts from the twisted birth canal of the Coliseum. Rim job fairy teapots, master temper tantrum. Oh, say again, you see 'em. And this other guy's like, the fuck is he talking about? He's like, yo, you're ignorant. This is deep. But it's just fucking bullshit nonsense.
But it was pretty good.
He's like, ride the rails from a Glickstein in your baby blue bus. Ride the rails. It just like he wrote all these lyrics. Every job that I've been fired from Judas Joan of Arc inspired. And it's just fucking, it sounds deep, but it means fucking nothing. And if you really, I've seen interviews with Bob Dylan. They're like, what was that? Like, how do you write those songs? And he's just like, I don't know. Which leads me to think Bob Dylan doesn't know what those fucking songs are about. He was just like, this sounds fucking awesome, but what the fuck am I talking about right now? You know? It's fucking utter nonsense. Like, it sounds poetic, but like, I've written songs where I'm just like, It sounds great, but this is I don't even know what the fuck I'm singing about right now, man. But it sounds fucking cool.
Interesting. Phonetic stimulation. Anyways, with that, we're about at that time, and we're ready to leave you folks off with a nice song. It's called "Back of the Bus" by Brendan.
Back of the bus.
I'm kidding. There ain't no song.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, next time though. Next time we'll have.
In
a
this
song.
timeline, I didn't write that song.
Yeah. Anyway, good night, folks.
Good night.